So Craig Gordon has announced his retirement from football at the age of 43. I'm joined by Fraser Wilson from the Daily Record to give a little bit of insight into his career so far and the reasons potentially behind his decision to retire. So Fraser, what are your reflections on Craig Gordon's decision to hang up his gloves?
It's no great surprise, Phil. I think he had mentioned a year ago, coming into this season, the last year of his deal at Hearts, that this would probably be his last year. I think he'd always targeted one last chance against a World Cup with Scotland. As far-fetched as that might have sounded a year ago, his dream did come true, even though he didn't play. So really, I think going out to America with the squad, not getting any minutes, was a bit of a shame for Craig, given all he's achieved in his career. But I think it was still a fitting end to an absolutely fantastic career. I mean, that's 22 years national services given to the Scotland national team. Bookended with friendlies against Caribbean sides on May the 30th. 2004, he made his debut under Bertie Vogts against Trinidad and Tobago. And then on May the 30th, the same date, 2026, he brought the curtain down with that last appearance against Curacao at Hampden under Steve Clarke. That big send-off for the national team for the World Cup turned out also to be Craig Gordon's send-off from a remarkable career.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what a career it was. Obviously, starting with Hearts, went on to Sunderland, Celtic, of course, had a huge success there, won 84 caps for Scotland. So what do you think have been the biggest highlights of his illustrious career?
That's some question, because it really is an incredible career. Do you know the fact that he was knocked back by his boyhood club Hearts as a teenager for being too small, and then having the resilience to come back from that when he suddenly sprouted to 6'4", ironically, and win a deal with Hearts later on in his teens, that just set him up for a career that has just constantly defied the odds. He won in the middle of, he became, having emerged onto the scene as a top young goalkeeper and excelled for Scotland, particularly in the Euro 2008 qualifying campaign, this all with Hearts. He became Britain's most expensive goalkeeper of all time when Roy Keane's Sunderland spent £9 million on him in 2007. So he was still fairly young for a goalkeeper then, and that just tells you everything about the standing in the game at that point. He did well for Sunderland. The one highlight, I suppose, on a personal level, because Sunderland were never pushing for serious honours, but he was voted in the 20th anniversary of the Premier League down there. He was voted as the greatest save of all time for a remarkable instinctive save, which really kind of typified Craig Gordon's style against Bolton Wanderers, where he managed to somehow clause that night, I think it was, effort from point blank range over the bar. It's an incredible save, but that's just one of an absolute catalogue of top saves. He went on to play for Celtic, won 12 top honours with Celtic, and then in the COVID year, marked his a kind of emotional return to Hearts, where he had another 6 years. But I think what stands Craig Gordon out above all else has been this resilience to come back from not 1, 2, possibly 3 career-ending injuries and still be the goalkeeper that made him Britain's most expensive. I mean, he had more than 2 years out of the game at the end of his Sunderland career through a series of knee injuries, ACL, patella injuries. I counted today, it was over 850 days between his last game for Sunderland and his first game for Celtic. And in that time, the rehab must have been grueling. The mental toil he must have gone through. He's spoken repeatedly about how he thought many times during those 2 years that his career was over. He was moving towards maybe coaching. Remember, he was still in his 20s at that point, so that would have been Scotland losing. I mean, that would have been horrific for a young goalkeeper of that standing. But he never gave up. I think he travelled to London to see specialists, go through several operations, went to Barcelona. And ironically, it was when he went, he was invited by former Scotland goalkeeping guru Jim Stewart to go into Rangers to really step up his rehab, just as a kind of favour that he did hit top fitness again, and did feel ready to return. And irony of all ironies, it was Celtic that offered him that chance. having seen Rangers help build him back up to that level. So he went to Celtic and again, never looked back after that. As I said, 12 trophies, again, hit the heights with the national team and was just the Craig Gordon of old. It was incredible. And then when he went back to Hearts, he's a week short of his 40th birthday at Hearts. Just when everyone's thinking he's starting to wind down simply because of his age, a day before Christmas Eve, a week short of his 40th birthday, and he suffers a horrific double leg break in a collision with Stephen Fletcher at Tannadice. And everyone and their dog must have thought, that's it now for Craig Gordon. He went 13 months again without playing, but somehow found the resilience, the courage, the effort to go through all the rehab again, build himself back up, and come back 13 months later for Hearts, play another 5 seasons for his boyhood heroes, win another 10 caps for Scotland, go to the World Cup this year. The resilience of the guy it's unmatched, I think, and really that above all else he has achieved in his career stands out for me as the best. It's an incredible story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier on about how, obviously, given his age and that sort of thing, how retirement was on the cards, how he wanted to give it one more year with the run up to the World Cup. But obviously, it was a pretty memorable season for Hearts. Obviously, but challenging for the title, being pipped at the very last moment to do so. Of course, then Scotland went off to the World Cup. Were eliminated from the group stages after a really bright start. So, what do you think Craig Gordon's reflections will be on this season? Do you think he'll look back on this season with pride? Or do you think it's one of missed opportunity? How do you think he would assess the last 12 months?
It's got to be pride. I mean, as we've mentioned, he realised that dream to go to the World Cup at 43-year-old, the oldest player at the World Cup. In terms of Hearts, wow. To be 3, well, I think given injury time, they were actually 11 minutes away from winning the title. Absolute soul-destroying for everybody at Hearts. I mean, if his career hasn't been difficult enough to believe, then to have bowed out as a title winner with his boyhood heroes, Hearts, the first time they would have won the title in 66 years, it would just have been absolute fairy tale stuff. Unfortunately for Hearts and everyone connected with him and Craig Gordon, they fell just short. They got as close as you could possibly imagine and fell just short. But even though he only played 3 times in that season for Hearts, a huge say in their run at the top of the table. He got thrust in for a first appearance of the season in January. Cold, right out of the cold. He hadn't played for the club for 8 months or so. Came on off the bench after Alexander Swallow was sent off. And everyone will remember that was up at Dundee. They won the game 1-0, played the whole second half 10 men. And the save Craig Gordon made at the end from, I think it was Emile Aqua, the header. That will go down in Hearts legend. It was just another of Craig Gordon's incredible saves. The kind of saves only he can make with that incredible reach that he's got with those long limbs and even more incredible reactions at his age. It was a stunning piece of goalkeeping. The week after that, again, he was forced to play in goals with 10 men for 75 minutes after Benny Beningame was sent off and Hearts ground out another important 2-0 win against St Mirren. And then his final appearance for Hearts this season came in a 2-2 draw with Celtic at Tynecastle. So 3 great results that really teed them up and kept them at the top of the league as they were for 7 months. I think he can look back with great pride, the way he's performed, the way he's carried himself this season and throughout his whole career. It just, if he had bowed out as a league winner with Hearts and at a World Cup with Scotland, there couldn't have been a better ending for him, but he just fell short of that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's been a really, really stunning career that he's had. So how do you think he'll be remembered in Scottish football, but also within like the Hearts fan base and the Celtic fan base? How will he be looked back on as a goalkeeper in Scottish football?
Hearts' greatest goalkeeper of all time. I don't think you can argue with that, given the length of service over 2 spells, the number of games he played, and just simply those saves that he made. The way he carried himself, the way he clearly loves the club, and I hope there will always be a position for him at the club. I personally, and this is a big debating point, a big talking point, I personally think he's Scotland's greatest ever goalkeeper as well. 22 years service is an incredible length of service. Played under 7 managers, I think, at last count. Come back for those what should have been career-ending injuries and still managed to play at the top level for his country. Huge saves. You know, he was up against Alan McGregor and David Marshall for many of those years in what was a golden era for Scottish goalkeeping, and won a lot of caps in that time. People say maybe Jim Leighton, who won more caps with less injuries, or Andy Gorham, who had 3 years where he was absolute world class, might be remembered as better Scotland goalkeepers. But I think there was spells in that time, particularly qualifying for Euro 2008, where Craig Gordon himself was world class, and nobody can match the length of service he's had for his country. If it had not been for those injuries, and I've read it written elsewhere recently that all his injuries accumulated to 5 years of action that he missed. Now, if he's fallen, 18 caps short of Kenny Dalglish's record, 102 Scotland caps, then I think if he had been injury-free, he would have absolutely blown that out of the water and been Scotland's most capped player of all time. So the way he's carried himself off the park, on the park, is just a great role model for kids, and I hope there's a position for him at Hearts and Scotland moving forward, ambassadorial, whatever it might be, that means that his legacy lives on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, that was going to be my my next question. You mentioned it before about coaching badges and that sort of thing. What do you think is next for Craig Gordon? Where do you see his profile, his experience, his personality really being used to full effect?
You know, there's an old saying, and it's completely wrong, that goalkeepers are daft. When you look at Craig Gordon, anything but the truth that he's a very intelligent, quite quiet, big fella. Was never shy of doing press writing off, and we always appreciated him for that. But very intelligent guy. I was speaking about this to somebody yesterday when the whispers were going around that he was going to announce his retirement, and somebody that knows him better than me suggested he would maybe go down the kind of David Marshall route at Hibs, and maybe look to get some kind of qualifications to move into maybe more sporting directorship or the kind of business side of the game. That was just what was suggested. Apparently, it's not. I don't think he's showing too much interest in becoming a coach at the moment, but certainly I know he goes into the Hearts Academy regularly and takes sessions just more as a kind of inspirational character in that, and pass on what he's learned. So he's certainly got plenty to pass on to the younger generations, and who knows, maybe when he stops being the receiving end of these shots every day and training, he'll fancy firing them off to the next generation of goalkeepers himself, because Hearts certainly have some cracking young goalkeepers coming through the ranks. So I don't know, I think that door will always be open to him. Coaching certainly deserves it, but I don't know, just the way the guy carries himself and the intelligence that he's got for the game, I wouldn't be surprised if he went more down a kind of boardroom line in future. But do you know what? Before anything, he deserves a good time off to spend with his family.